All right, we're going to talk a little bit about we think is better. Is it going to be PC? Is it console? Mark, what do you think on that?
I'm leaning a little bit more towards PC gaming myself.
I definitely lean more on the console side. I do get a, aspect of both,
Yeah,
but I'm more console on my end. So I'm here with Mark today, Game Junction. How's it going, Mark?
it's going fantastic. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. And then me, Brandon, as always.
Yeah,
So we'll dive into our first topic here is going to be talking about the budget of PC gaming versus console gaming. So Mark, what do you think as far as that goes with budget, pricing, and starting in the PC gaming?
I guess there's the big difference between console and PC gaming is uh, I think the upfront cost in a lot of ways. If you wanted to be like you want like the high end graphics, current gen is gonna run you a lot of money. You're probably looking
Yeah.
$4,000 range on the low end for like high end stuff, and you could even go crazier than that. Depends on like what you want to do, but realistically, even $2,000 to $4,000 just for like a decent modern gaming PC can be fairly expensive for a lot of people. But you've also got the other side where it's like you can have a lot of upfront cost, but some hardware lasts longer. So like as you're pulling parts out and upgrading, you're only maybe doing one at a time. But I mean, a graphics card could run you $500-$600, the price of a new console. So uh, the budget can definitely be an issue when it comes to PC gaming for some people.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I definitely see both sides, and I have nothing against PC gaming. I think, on that end, you can kind of go as high as you want to go with PC gaming. You can go as low as you want to go with PC gaming. Are you going to use it for an all-in-one machine with emulation? Are you going to use it for high-end, brand new games, and you want to spec all the way out?
Yeah,
You can kind of do whatever you want. But on the console side, if you are on a budget, console is generally the way to go. You're looking at a console now, so both new consoles and Switch as well. You're looking at $500 a piece tax, and then your Switch you're looking at $300. Those are all MSRP prices. So if you just want to play games, console is generally the way to go. I think on the defense of console, the big thing about that is exclusives, right? So PC does not get all these Nintendo games. They're starting to get PlayStation games, not all of them, but they're starting to get those. And Microsoft's doing pretty well getting games out on PC with PC Game Pass and all the stuff with that. So it's definitely improved. But if you want to play Nintendo, I generally see PC gamers always have a Switch too. They get that as their console to go along with their PC because they know they're not going to be able to play these new Nintendo games on there.
yeah,
So I mean, if you're on a budget, that's generally the way to go. But there are some downfalls to that as well.
yeah. Pretty much is all my major cross AAA platforms. Big games are going to be on PC, and then if you have to get an exclusive on a console, you get a console just for those exclusives, pretty much.
So with the advantages of consoles, essentially you're looking at a few things. You got something you can use straight out of the box. There's nothing to put together. You're not upgrading anything for the console aside from memory. So obviously with these new consoles, new games are massive. Warzone alone, a ton of people play that. It's almost 500 gigabytes by itself. So that is something you have to do, but that's kind of always been the case for consoles from the beginning of time. Your PlayStation One, you had your memory cards. Your N64, you had your memory cards. Before that, you had password systems or batteries. So it's one of those things that they're easy to use. The average consumer can get around things, so you're not messing with programs. You're not having to install a bunch of stuff. They're ready to go. You can download these games now. You can buy the physical copy, put it in your system, have it installed, and you're ready to play games. And it's much cheaper. So essentially, you don't have to upgrade anything, but that also comes with downfalls. That the fact that you can't upgrade anything means that it gets out of date relatively quickly. So generally what happens with that with consoles, they have a midlife refresh. They got a new improved console, and you got to buy your console again. On the
Yeah.
flip side for that, that's generally still cheaper than a PC. So I mean, Mark, what do you think about that?
I mean, that makes sense. The console is like as close as you can be to like a plug and play. The games are gonna work. They're optimized. You don't have to worry about changing like a whole lot of settings. They're just kind of like these games that are released if they're working properly. All Cyberpunk 2077. You put the game in, you play. You don't have to. You don't even have to think about it. Where when you're dealing with
Pokemon Scarlet.
yeah, with the console side, you have a lot of settings you can do because there's a wide range of hardware that people use. You have to make sure it's optimized for the hardware that you have, as well as what was I gonna say?
Compatibility issues.
Not really. Not in the same sense. As far as with that, it's a matter of you have to upgrade periodically to like if you want the optimal experience, or if you don't mind playing on some stuff on lower settings, you can let your hardware age a little bit. But you do have to worry about making sure that it's the settings are optimized right for the hardware that you have, and it can cause issues with a lot of newer games. If you've got like 5, 6, 7 year old hardware, it's definitely gonna be dated on some of the games that you can and can't play.
So what we got now is the advantages of PC gaming. There's a lot of them. There's also some downfalls. So Mark, let's get a little bit into that.
Obviously, we kind of already touched on this a few times already. The customization, you can be very in depth with what you want your PC to be. Whether you want to optimize it for a certain type of gaming, or maybe you do other stuff. You just want to game on the side. There's a lot of flexibility with what you can do. Where it's the one downside, one thing we tapped on a little bit with the console is you have this box, and if you want new hardware, you have to wait for the next console to come out. So you're kind of stuck for 5 or 6 years, or potentially longer, before you can upgrade to like the next console system. As well as the advantage of some of that stuff is, and what it comes with the setting and the more advanced hardware for the same games is, you can definitely take advantage of like the better hardware as a whole to make the game look so much better. You can tweak all the little details when it comes to settings, like you want to affect the bloom, the flare, how you want to affect the depth of field, your whole zoom. You're not stuck with one set field of view, which are kind of getting better with the console, but you've had that forever. There's just a lot more that you can do. And then you've always got that forever debate when it comes to like shooters: is a mouse and keyboard better? Is a controller better? It's kind of a semantic. What personally fits you? What does a game fit? So there's a lot of a lot that you can do with PC gaming as far as just being flexible from graphics to the actual hardware. Because even on a PC, you can still use like a controller. So you have a lot of flexibility in just how you want to play the game.
So yeah, I mean, I think PC does offer a lot of advantages. I think the big thing is that hardware gets outdated very, very, very quickly, right? So getting that midlife refresh for the console, 5, 6 years, majority of people, they've already bought the console that launched. They're not going to buy the midlife refresh. But some of us that more quote unquote hardcore gamers, or we're just super into gaming, typically will buy that, and it is usually a pretty big upgrade. And that's kind of the downfall. But when you look at it in that sense too, it still ends up as a whole being cheaper than PC gaming.
Yeah.
I do just think that PC does have a lot to offer for people. If you want customization, you want the highest end specs that you can get, the best graphics, the best frame rate, PC is your option, and I think it's a good option. So
yeah, the hardware does somewhat get outdated depending on whether you want to play at the highest levels, but you could probably wait the 5-6 years. The life cycle of a console, you can usually use that as like a good span of like at the long end for hardware upgrade, depending on how up to date you were when you initially built your hardware. Because if you when you upgrade it, always upgrade to the newest stuff, you're usually good for a few years before you absolutely have to upgrade, unless you absolutely have the money and you want to upgrade every year, every 2 years, like a lot of the stuff that comes out.
So one of the other advantages of PC gaming is the fact that you have the option for emulation. Yes, there is retro hardware you can do this stuff with, but your modern consoles, legally, you're not able to do these things unless the company offers some sort of way to get them, Nintendo Switch Online. Well, you've got like 25 64 games in there. There's like 564 games. So PC does offer that side. I know we talked about it last week a little bit, but we just want to touch on that a little bit here as a standalone video, that you do have that option. Mark, what do you think about that?
Yeah, obviously you've got the official emulation, which is always preferred because the game would be optimized. It's the most legal way to emulate. There
Sure.
is a bunch of ways with ROM emulation. It might not always be the most legal or not legal at all, or a gray area depending on the country you live in or how deep in the woods you really want to get with emulation. But you always have the option to emulate a lot of stuff on PC. Some stuff works a lot better with emulation because you need a good, the ROM needs to work, and as well as whatever the actual software that you're using to run these ROM emulations needs to be well. So you can definitely, it can be a pro and con because these games have to be optimized for whatever emulation you're running them through. But there's a lot of stuff out there that's fan made emulation because
Yeah.
some games just get ignored by the developers or the publishers. So like the only way, the only really easy way to play a lot of these games, if you don't want to chuck out $300-400 for like old hardware that's refurbished, an old game that might be hard to come and get, is just to go into emulation.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also, it's offered a lot for just video game preservation as a whole. It's where we do our video game backups. It's how we've been able to preserve some of these games that are essentially rotting away or that there's one copy of and nobody just has access to. Mark, you got anything else to say here, closing?
I mean, at the end of the day, everyone has their preference for either PC or console, and pick whatever fits you for what you want to do, what you can afford. It's up to you. I mean, everyone wants to do something, or if you have the ability to afford everything, I mean, why not?
Absolutely. So thank you for checking out today's video. We appreciate it. Give us a like, comment, subscribe down below. We'll catch you again in the next video. We'll see you later. Peace.
Peace.